It's the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes post-match phone-in on X or Twitter or whatever it's called these days.
Well, good evening, everybody. Yes. Well, I've got to say, that was an anger-inducing performance. It really, really was. Starting it a bit early because I imagine a few people will want to have their say, and that's fair enough. But a more lackluster performance. I mean, let's face it, we've had some before. That was really, really poor. Yep, referee, absolute stunk for everybody. But when we actually got that goal back, my overwhelming feeling was feeling sorry for Sheffield Wednesday more than thinking, yes, we deserve this. It was a real kick in the teeth for a game that if we had, and I'm using past tense here, if we had any pretense of really trying to come through, bearing in mind we are only, 3 points off of the playoff? Christ, this league is bonkers. It's ridiculous. We're 6 points off of third place. And yet a team, a performance certainly worse than Saturday's first half. Absolutely it was. It was a team of individuals again, which is just so sad. I appreciate that, Yavi had less of maybe his preferred players. We can talk about Bar, we can talk about Vata, but he had a whole number of subs. And did he only make 2 subs? I think he only used 2 subs, which says something about the upcoming transfer window. If he's not going to change shape, and that felt like a game where, the shape felt like it needed probably to change because we got, outnumbered in midfield. I won't say overrun or outclassed, but fair play to Sheffield Wednesday. If we'd have lost to them, I'd have come on and said fair play to them. They got the draw, and I'll say fair play to them. But that performance was lacking in composure. It was lacking in tempo. The speed with which we didn't move the ball around was frankly worrying. Absolutely worrying. A real concern. We are going to Wrexham, and a week that could have felt like it was really going to gather momentum was allowed to go missing today. We let it go. We did nothing to pick it back up. And we haven't even started talking about, could we please not concede the first goal? Because, what do you do to a team in Sheffield Wednesday's position currently, they have had everything stacked against them. They've had an owner, yes, and I know people will talk about our owner this evening. I get that completely, but they've had an owner who is busy on a self-destruct. They deserved a night in a performance of solidarity tonight. We spoke to Matt, and if you haven't listened to the opposition view, I suggest you do, because it's really got little to do about the game at the start. It's more about what they've been going through. And it wasn't a get out of jail. It was a why the fuck didn't we do things earlier to at least give us an opportunity? Yes, we've missed a penalty, but hey, this is an opportunity for you, should you wish, to emote. That is that's the whole reason for this. Let me not suck all the wind out of the air and get in the way of other people. Let's get across to Uncle Ron, because he's trying to get in previously, and we haven't managed to get to him. But Ron, that was a performance that felt like, I'm trying to think of, was a little bit like Blackburn, but we had the blue kit to look at that day. It felt almost Yeovilish, but we got an equaliser. What do you reckon? Hello, you little Ron.
Oh, you can't talk like that. Peter, you'll have to come back.
Good grief, we'd started it so encouragingly.
Absolute rotters.
Yeah, let him go. God, crikey, that's probably going to feel like the day today. I shouldn't wonder. Who we got here? Right, let's get across to Adi, a new name. Then I'm going to come to Paul. Then I'll come to Rich in that order. Adi, so hit your mic button. And
yeah.
Hello, mate. Sorry. So I started to rant on that, and I'd much rather people say what they thought about it rather than me set the tone. But what did you reckon on things tonight?
The most uncoached team I've ever seen. Most frustrating. The game's so simple, and we seem to make it so hard for ourselves. We've got players that are so far up their own arse, it's a joke. Some of the players that are apparently the best in the league, but seem to have no quality at all.
On the basis of tonight, I've simply got nothing to offer you as an argument to that, sir, and nor would I try.
We've got players that are supposedly going to be future talents, but I don't think they don't get their head out their arse. They ain't going to go anywhere with their careers, really.
Was it attitude? Was it tactics? Was it effort? Was it all of the above?
All of it. I don't know where to start. It's been tough the last few weeks. I thought we turned a corner. Thought we were going to get better, but Javi's tactics are killing us. We don't look like a team that's coached to play. That second half was abysmal, awful, the worst I've seen us play.
I've already launched into kind of. I was, when we scored that equaliser, and if anybody from Sheffield Wednesday is listening, then my apologies, because you did enough to come away and be rubbing it in, with the exception of McNeil. He can go stuff himself as far as I'm concerned, because he was giving us the big one before he went off, and if you do that, you're tempting fate, frankly.
Yep.
But that notwithstanding, as a supporter group, they deserve every opportunity to have an enjoyable night out and a day out, and they would have had it quite rightly. But we would have been the authors of our own destruction. Were you at the Rookery end, or were you watching the game on the telly?
I was watching the game on my laptop.
Oh,
in anger.
Oh well, yeah, me too. But what was the deal with the penalty? Because I'm in the family stand, so it's hard to see quite what happened.
I think it should have been retaken. I don't think it should have been given as a free kick to them. They had players on their side in the box at exactly the same time as Kayembe, so in a normal circumstance, it just gets retaken.
So it was encroachment, basically.
Encroachment, yep. The Kayembe's foot in the box, Cooper's foot was in the box, but apparently for some reason, the signal the ref gave looked to be an offside signal, but never offside.
Well, who knows? If at the end of the day, without it, with the ball being struck and coming off the bar. Go on, sorry.
20 shots altogether compared to their 4. So if you ain't scoring at least 2 or 3, serious questions, especially with those 3 up front. Kieran Gard looks weak as anything on the ball. When the ball gets played into him, weak. He looks like he's too gangly. But
the thing that annoyed me is, and a fine little player he will be, Harry Amas.
Yes.
Bought through our own academy. There were times in that game when he had his back to the player and shielded the ball. Now, Harry Amas is probably, I don't know, about 12 stone wringing wet, and can hold off. I mean, let's face it, it was a Watford player on his back, so probably not an awful lot of effort in trying to shut him down. But I would like to see Kieran Gard and those forwards really bulk up a bit and kind of man up a little bit and go, look, this is men's football here. You've got to protect this ball. You've got to shield it, and then you've got to move it out of your feet in a way. We are easily bullied, aren't we?
I think that comes down to coaching. We've got not a single attacking coach at the club. They're not smart. They don't know how to use their bodies. They're not small lads, all 3 of them. They're all 6 foot plus.
Yeah.
They're not small lads. They're not, apart from Doumbia is the skinniest, but Doumbia looks like the only one who does hold the ball up. They're just not clever footballers. Then that sums up the rest of them. That's all of them. They're not clever footballers. They're not streetwise. They don't know how to play the Championship at its own game.
Well, it does feel like on occasions also that, it surprises me that we had 20 shots, but everything was shut down very quickly, kind of all the time. It felt like we were trying to score the perfect goal, playing inside the box and then a little layoff and they were drop, especially having gone a goal up, of course, they'll drop deep, absolutely fill the spaces and put their bodies on the line. They did that until the 96th minute. That must have been gutting, but
100%.
Absolutely. Well, AD, thank you very much indeed for starting us off there. Lovely stuff. Let's get across to Paul Holly and hear Paul's thoughts. Then we're going to be coming to Rich. Then we're going to come to Boyd. Then we're going to come to Tom, and hopefully to Iggy as well. Maybe, who knows if we can get there in time, because sometimes people do drop off. We appreciate you got to head on and stuff. Paul, sir, thoughts on the evening?
Good evening, Pete.
Good evening, sir.
I thought you summed it up perfectly.
Oh, blimey.
And the point you made about at the end where you said you felt sorry for Sheffield Wednesday, that's exactly how I felt.
Yeah.
And Rich won't like it, but I didn't go tonight because I saw the team line up and I could have written the script that the ground would be half empty because people just aren't inspired enough to go. And yeah, there will always be some that drop out because it's Tuesday night and the family zone will be, half empty because of school. But people aren't inspired to go. So if it's a toss of a coin, they decide, okay, well, I'll just watch it on the red button or on a stream, or I'll just catch up with the result later. But when I saw that lineup, it just showed me that we've learned nothing from Saturday. And I could have written the script over what would happen. I knew that we would concede first.
Okay, so you got it and you knew it. What would you have done differently, just as an interest? Because for me, what was really telling was Yavi chose not to change the shape and only changed a couple of kind of personnel items in there. One, because Marma got on a second yellow, so you brought on Iran Kunda, fine, understand that. And then obviously he swapped out Kieran Gar for the eventual forward Semedo. So fair play, that has worked. It obviously took its time to get through. But what would you have done differently? Would you have gone with a 3 in the midfield, perhaps, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah.
What might have you seen in terms of his available players that would have got you in the car and down to Vicarage Road?
Well, I think the setup, because we get overrun in midfield like Norwich did in the first half Saturday, which most teams have done when they've gone a goal up. They just barge straight through our midfield and then create a chance. And then, like tonight, they've scored with their first opportunity. So if you're going to have Loser as a quarterback, then you've got to have 2 midfielders in there that are strong to allow him the freedom to roam, and then he can create. And when he has been successful, he has been able to achieve that. But when you look at the team sheet, when you look at Saturday's game, he's got Kayembe next to him in the centre.
Yeah.
If you then mark him out the game or stay very close to him, then you've given the rest of your team free access to run past Kayembe and straight at a very fragile defence. So you've got to change the formation to allow your creative players the freedom and space. And, God bless the days when we had Capu and Decore. I mean, we were blessed when we had them 2 in there. But we just lack having that kind of rock in the midfield. So therefore, you've got to kind of smother it. So I would probably go 3-5-2. I'm not a massive fan of 4-3-3. Not when you haven't got a shithouse number 9.
Okay.
It's already been highlighted.
Yeah.
But if you're going to go with a 2 up front, I'd play big man, little man, stick Iran Kunda up front with one of the 3 juniors, as I call them. But you give some assistance to Loser in midfield, so you have 2 holding, Loser for freedom, and then you probably have a better chance. But if you look to that first half, Mama was getting the ball on the right-hand side, and fair play to Harry Amos, or Hamas as he's known. I thought he had a good game against Mama. But on the left-hand side, we had nothing. Yet when we were successful previously, Bola and Mama were linking up very well. We had absolutely no width on the left, and we were very lopsided. But the other point I wanted to make, Pete, and I'm very disappointed, and I'm glad I didn't go.
Right.
But in the last few weeks, who has actually improved? Other than Jeremy and Ngakia, and fair play to him in the first half, he was trying to make things happen and drive the team forward. Who has improved? I am struggling to see one player that I could name that in the last few weeks since Javi came in has improved other than Jeremy and Ngakia. And that is an open question to all the listeners. Who has improved?
I would say Mark Boller. I think he is getting better over time, but he was, I think he's been
Okay.
far. But the fullbacks are in a 4-4-2 are going to be your available out ball, and I think that both of them have done well. And I appreciate the jury is out on everything with everyone, and that's fine. That's why we're here to chat and mull over. I think as we have seen Kyprianou, I think, fall away a little bit, i.e. he's a little bit too slow in terms of what he's doing. His passing is a bit erratic, and I think he needs to bulk up a little bit. I think that would have been one of the logical bring-ons today, but I imagine that from Birmingham, I'm not sure, along with a number of the squad, that Yavi necessarily trusts him. It was interesting the other week. I was over at a thing where both Troy Deeney and Adi Mariappa were talking, and the subject obviously got onto the FA Cup final, and therefore obviously Yavi as well. And they went, look, no, he's really good. He's tactically very good. They say, he does it absolutely well. The one thing that was suggested was that, and I appreciate this will go against one of the comments that was made by the club when they brought him back, was that he's too loyal to players, and therefore one of the things that we saw with Petzolano was that he would. We'd have 5 or 6 changes every single game, and there was nothing built up. The other side of this is the balance to use your squad. If you've got, and I haven't looked at I can't remember how many players were on the bench, but typically you can put 9 players on a bench. We were 1-0 down, and we refused to change shape. And if you're not going to do that, you can only really change the game via personnel or just by encouragement. Encouragement, that's frankly, was not working this evening. The shape was not working this evening, and we refused to change the personnel. So I think you've got to seize the moment as a manager and try and be proactive. And if the opposition do something to you, you've got to be reactive, but you've got to be active in some way, shape, or form. You can't simply sleepwalk through the rest of the game, deciding you're not going to change anything in order to try to get back and just hope that the team will wake up at some point. We nearly did. We nearly got out of jail with the penalty, of course, and then we had the goal at the end. And well done for everybody who stuck around to see it. But the boos that ran around from the people who stayed were absolutely said everything about the overall performance tonight. It was a whole team, and this is where I'm slowly coming around to trying to answer your question. We've gone from having obviously a Vata and a Bar, and had they gone forward in recent weeks until the injuries, I'm not sure. But these were players who would, to coin a phrase by better people than I, would make things happen. And they're not there. We look like a team who are waiting for other people to make things happen. And you can't do that.
Yeah.
Somebody in the squad, somebody in the team, more than one player in the team, has to decide that they're going to go and do that today. And today we had Kayembe, and in a team with Chakvadadze, where he'll get it and he'll carry it and he'll be a little bit slow. He will slow the game up. Having Kayembe further slow the game up when we're in possession just gave them opportunity to sit back all the time. They sat back deep, having got their goal, and did an almost, and apologetically when I say it, perfect away performance. And it was infuriating. So it wasn't a good game tonight. Absolutely, not a good showing.
Just to come back at you there, Pete.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
I think Bowler's improved 20% and Gakia's improved 40%. I don't think anyone else has improved. Mama wasn't his best tonight, but he has been a shining star since he's been given the opportunity. But I'm on the fence with Bar because he hardly actually played. Yeah, he had a couple of wow moments, but actually when he played, for me, he kind of got injured, fell on the floor. I don't think you could really judge him. Vata, it's a shame he is injured. But Irankunda gone backwards. Kyprianou, 5-6 games in, was my player of the season, gone backwards. Why are they going backwards? There's definitely something not right when players have stopped improving and actually their performances are dipping. All right, loser, change of agent. You only do that for one reason. His agent will be out marketing him now. He wanted the penalty today to up his stats, to get him a better move. Let's not kid ourselves. Actions speak louder than words. He's looking for an out. But there is a collective honestly, there is, Pete. Actions speak louder than words, right? Pete,
I think I think. Hang on, no. Hold
backwards?
on, hold on a second. I'm not disagreeing that his performances haven't been there, but I can't say. I'm sorry. I can't have a captain who takes the responsibility, picks up the ball, takes the ball. He's either going to score or he's going to miss. You know, those are binary.
Yeah.
Those are binary outputs. And if he scores, he's a hero, and if he misses, he's an attention-seeking person trying to get out. I know people who are close to him, and frankly, the agent stuff is not something that he is pushing for. He has come away from an agent who is not very popular with an awful lot of supporters of this club, right? That does not make him very overly popular with the hierarchy, right? He may well want to get away. He might well do. You could understand why. However, picking up the penalty tonight and saying he wants to take that purely to up his value to go away, I'm not personally on board with that, but you know, as I always say, all opinions are there. But you know, it's one for us to mull over, Paul. You know,
that's fair. That's fair. So you're saying he left Mogi Bayat to join a different agent?
My understanding. That is my understanding.
Okay, well then I take it back, and fair play to him if that's true.
Yeah. So, but
fair play.
But your point is based upon your observed performances that he's had that have definitely been within himself, and that might well be an element that has, I know, upset the equilibrium. I do not know in that respect. Nobody knows other than
injury,
other than him. Yeah, and playing an awful lot of football.
Strapped. His legs heavily strapped. He's got all that black taping on it.
Well, this is where we come back to the excitement of a young squad that we can get behind, that when they come back in and they do something, and we did it again tonight, in fairness, you know, and I appreciate it annoyed me in some ways, because it's one of those where you almost want to turn around and say, well, that would have papered over the cracks, you know, getting the goal. I don't think it did. I don't think it did on Saturday. Everybody, when we were here and talking about it, was going that we got out of jail free on that, and that was not good enough. That should have been a wake-up call. All the supporters saw it. All the supporters acknowledged it was not 100%. It was not a good performance, and it needed to be reacted to. And you cannot react to a team and a club that is under the weight and pressure that Sheffield Wednesday are. The one thing that will have given them, obviously, is a togetherness and a camaraderie, and almost the pressure kind of comes off. But they looked more coordinated. They looked more cohesive than we did for 75 minutes of today. Of tonight, and that is really, really worrying when you hear the story of not only their season but the last few seasons, and as to how incoherently run that club has been. It's certainly not a good night for Yavi, and I think certainly the jury is most certainly out. And it's not just sitting there going, we're sitting there and enjoying the honeymoon period of him. Everybody wants Javi to succeed. There will be people who don't like the 4-4-2. There will be people who do not like the tactics, but everybody will want him to succeed. Tonight was not a good night, and he's going to absolutely have to do something to turn it around. Rich, sir, we go to Rich WFC 2. Normally starts us off, but let's come in on this as well. What is he going to have to do to get this team back in with some form of momentum and tempo to the game? I always used to, every single game, and it was talking to the players about the tempo that we move the ball around dictates how much space you can open up. There was a moment earlier on in the game, sorry, Rich, I'm sitting here blathering, and it was, and I screamed, move it to Ngakia, and we didn't. We moved it to Bolla. Do you know what Bolla tried to do from the left side? Whack it all the way across to Ngakia. Quelle surprise, it didn't make it. The quicker you move the ball, in those tight areas, if you can shift the ball from one side to another in, kind of two passes, so use somebody as a fulcrum and then go out, you create space, you move forward, you move the opposition back, you move them off their axis. Tonight, all they did was shuffle backwards and forwards. Not at one point did we successfully transfer in an attacking position from one point to another and then get a shot away. Every time we transferred it across, it went to Kayembe. He turned and pushed the ball back. And the reason I call Kayembe is because late on in the game, Loser had a shot from range, and he worked the keeper. And Kayembe failed to do that almost every opportunity today. Not having to go at him because everybody was bloody awful. He had an opportunity to change it. Sorry, I'll shut up. Rich, what would you like to say?
Evening, Pete.
Sorry, mate.
Okay. I've tried to dissect this in the last 45 minutes or so. Driving home, I lost my shit a little bit last week against Birmingham, and all the signs were there that I didn't like. I saw it in the first half Saturday against Norwich, didn't like it. We somehow got away with it. Now, one thing that happened tonight, and I hated the formation. I didn't like the setup. But what happened very, very early, at least we had a go. Now, if you can't have a go at Sheffield Wednesday, then you got help us, the mess that they're in.
Yeah.
And for the first 5-10 minutes, and there was one wonderful move the whole game. That was all there, and it was the one that fell, and it fell to Jack Kavazzi. No, I can't even speak now. Jack Kavazzi should have scored. That goes in, it's a different evening. And of course it didn't. Yeah. And the worry that I'm watching with my Watford team under Javi Gracia is that we don't know how to respond when it starts to shut up. I remember a game against Oxford at home when Petzolano was in charge. And listen, I'm not here to apologise for Petzolano. I didn't like the bloke. I knew the training ground.
Yep.
But in that game, he game managed and completely changed the game around from a game that was going to slip away from us against Oxford at home to winning the game relatively comfortably in the end, because he saw early things weren't right. Javi doesn't see that. I watched tonight very intently. I've got a great seat in the ground. I've been going long enough to have a wonderful seat. I sit right on the halfway line. I see everything. And I really watched that game tonight, and how once Wednesday got their stupid goal that we given, they literally just sat and they knew exactly what they were doing. Harry Amass was absolutely magnificent.
Yes, he was great.
He really for a while in the second half, and Harry just completely and utterly destroyed him. So he ended up taking Chak off and putting Irakunda over the right.
Mm-hmm.
The lad is shot. There's something seriously wrong there. He's just bless his heart. He just can't do anything right. I'm not going to labour the point on that.
Yeah.
But let's go back to Javi Gracia. Now you're seeing what's going on in front of you, and you're not reacting. You are not doing anything to make the game available. You're not making we've got the ball with Pollock and Alian at the back, and it's going sideways and backwards, and they're trying to push it down the flanks. And Wednesday is sitting in 2 lots of 5, and a goalkeeper that's throwing himself at everything, and we're not creating anything. I didn't see the goal. I actually left on 90 minutes once the referee again couldn't be bothered to book a Wednesday player for time waste. I just looked at the colleague next to me and said, I can't stand any more of this, I'm going. And I couldn't get out the Vicarage Road end because there was a gas leak, so I had to walk round the long way anyway. Oh. And by the time I get to my car at the school a little bit further, I hear the goal go in, and I just thought, just incredible. Any Watford fan, and there weren't many there again tonight, and I'm not going to, I said my piece on it. I've gone there again tonight, and I can't sit there and put a case to any Watford fan that sat and watched it at home with their feet up in front of the telly tonight and say you should have been at Vicarage Road. How can I? That is not what you pay money to go and watch. If you've already bought your season ticket and you're sitting at home, all you're doing is putting money in Pozzo's pocket, and you're sitting at home and he's laughing because they put up the attendance of 16,875, I think it was. Now, there was 7,000 fans in that ground tonight. I would say you were a liar. But so, it's coming over our club. There is nobody's interested now. There is no excitement. Javi is just stuck in his ways. He doesn't know how to deal with exciting players. I like to see 4-4-2 when you have proper strikers. We don't have proper strikers. They are terrible. I mean, Doumbé, bless his heart, he's getting worse every game. He cannot do anything if it's not on his left foot. Twice he got into the penalty box. He couldn't shoot with his foot. Had to get on his left, and they just crowded him out. Embarrassing. Luca didn't get a kick all night. I haven't seen it yet. I'd imagine that was a
sorry, Rick. I think I think we've lost Rich there. Hold on, Rich. Try and come back in if you can, and we'll get you back in. Let's get across to. Sorry, Rich. It was just it was in and out. Let me just before we come to Tom. Let's just try and get Rich back. See if a reconnection works.
I'm back.
Right, that's a bit better. Thank you. I think that was working. So, sometimes, sometimes it's 50p in the meter from Elon. That's what we need to see. You were saying about Kieran Guard was having a bit of a nightmare as much as anyone else.
And we just don't have forwards to play 4-4-2. So you've got to change it. And we saw the stuff in the dressing room from Javi on after the game Saturday saying that's not good enough, lads. We need to be better. And we got the same tonight. And your heart sinks and you just think, why can't we be more progressive? Where is the way to break down a team? It was very obvious after 30 minutes tonight, once Wednesday scored, what the game was going to be all about. And he was clueless. And I you know me, I don't like to see managers change, but I don't know if I want to carry on seeing Javi's teams for the rest of the season. I don't think I want to get off my arse and go down to Vicarage Road and watch it. I was bored. I've wasted another evening tonight and I've not enjoyed anything that I've seen. I didn't enjoy it Saturday. It was 3-2 and I couldn't really enjoy it. I used to love Graham Taylor's, if they score 3, we score 4, because we played that type of football that you always thought we were going to score. We were terrible. It was a disaster and the crowds are not bothering to turn up anymore. So unless Gino Pozzo sells the club and Scott Duxbury gets off his arse and starts sorting something out, for him to go at the fans forum and say, we'll be stunting the development of our young strikers if we buy a proper striker. It's all nonsense. It's all taking the mick out of the supporters. And if you stood at the end of that game tonight and applauded Watford off, then shame on you.
I don't honestly think anybody did. There was a resounding boo at the end and a move towards the exits, and the players didn't even come around. I think the players knew what they'd done. Couple of just some interesting points, and we'll go through a few of them. But I just want to get your response on one of this, Rich, and then we'll go across to you, Tom. So stay with us, mate. One question from Samuel Walter. He says, "Why are we solely blaming Yavi? Surely we have to look at the players as well. I mean, the players do have to step up and not be waiting for somebody else to solve all the problems, don't they?"
Yes, but ultimately it's who you pick the team. And if you're going to pick a team that is one-dimensional and you don't change it, I've got no problem with changes happening at half time. I mean, even Kunda only came on at half time because Mama was probably going to get sent off. It wasn't a tactical change. It was a change to stop a player getting sent off. And that tells you everything you need to know, because it's not, you could have made 3 or 4 changes at half time to impact the game, to change it. He didn't. Management and coaching are what that changes the games. Players are players. They don't love the football club like we do. It's their job. They do as they're told, especially the younger lads. And it is down to the coach to change it. If you're unlucky and things like that. I mean, even over the penalty. Now, I take what you point with your debate with Paul, and I'm sort of 50-50 with both of you. I can see Paul's point of view and I can see your point of view. But to me, I sat in my seat when I saw Loser take the ball off Kayembe, I said to the bloke next to me, it ain't their night tonight, he's going to miss. And I'm not being clever. Yeah. I'm not being wise after the event. Hand on heart, that's exactly what I said. Because you go back to the Derby game a couple of weeks ago, Kayembe took another world-class penalty. Why is he not taking the penalty? Tom Ince is on the pitch tonight. I don't think I've ever seen Tom Ince miss a penalty or Kayembe, and yet Loser decides it's down to him to take the penalty tonight. And he misses it, and okay, there for the grace of God, but where's your brain? You're captured. It's an easy decision. Give the ball to Kayembe to blast into the net and get yourself into the game. This is the problem.
I'll tell you now, Mark Deshaies agreed. He said anyone can miss a penalty, but Kayembe on them for me. And again, it does come back and, Paul and I will shoot the breeze on it on many things. And he's like yourself. I don't mind agreeing, disagreeing, querying or talking, because let's face it, both of us could talk the hind legs off a donkey about Watford quite happily and to our heart's content. I thought one of the other questions I just wanted to run past you, and then we'll get on to Tom and everybody else is waiting. George Parker, hello George, said, as a side note, do we think the club releasing post-match changing room talks helps or hinders the players' mindset? Now, of course, we first saw this under Paolo Pezzolano. It wasn't well received. Yavi does have a more personable manner, and he was we saw it going. But is that something that, and I know that you've played, is that something that you think you would have found an odd thing, or is it in some ways motivating? If you do well, then that's going to be seen. I doubt we would get to see very much out of tonight's because it would feel almost contentious.
Yeah, I mean, this is the modern world. I'm watching Sky the other night, and they're interviewing managers at half time, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the stupid modern world that we're in. To answer your question, it's interesting how Watford media decide to what they send out, because obviously, perhaps I'm being, let's say it as it is. The Pet Solano video that went out for a reason. It went out to basically show that the player, when he's saying, "I'm not your friend," and all this nonsense, it was deliberately put out there to provoke, knowing that he was gone. The one the other day from Javi was more, "Well done, lads. That weren't good enough, but we can do better than that." Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. So it was a more positive one with a slightly negative spin to say, but the trouble is that one has backfired on him, because we've then gone and played like we have tonight on the back of that Saturday. We played the two bottom teams and we've not deserved a point out of either of the games. Let's be honest. We've got, it's hard to argue. It's just very frustrating. I've tried to now just say to myself, why even get excited? Why even get wound up about it? It's a game of football, and it's sad because I'm not like that. Because I go for a bit of passion, and I'm not seeing it at Watford. I feel like the club's dying on its feet.
It doesn't. It feels like the momentum is stalled tonight.
Yeah.
And we're going to finish the call with Rich, with a comment from Wonky Donkey 1980. Because if you can't finish a call with Wonky Donkey, I don't know what you can. A great point. We're actually in good form. 1 defeat in 8. It is bizarre. It is. It's absolutely odd to feel like the wheels are coming off, but the points are slowly accruing. And I appreciate some people would have looked at it and gone, well, they were there under Paolo, and look, let's not go there. You go on.
The thing is, though, it depends if your glass is half full or half empty. How many of those are draws that we could and should be beating teams? We just played the two bottom teams, as I said. We're going to Wrexham on Saturday, and I've got a personal reason for looking forward to that game.
Yeah.
And I know full well what they're expecting to do to Watford on Saturday, and and they're there to beat us Saturday. So let's see if Javi's got something in him. Can he turn it around and get us an away performance? And can we see going to a very hostile ground on Saturday?
Well,
let's see what happens. I'll shut up now. Let others get on. I'm going to go to bed because I've had enough of Watford for one night.
Fair enough.
Well, listen to the rest of you in the morning.
Fingers crossed. Anybody who's watching on YouTube or Twitter can see that my glass is indeed they're both half full and half empty. It's I'm going to have with both of those. Cheers, Rich. I'm one of those people who, when they say you can't have your cake and eat it, clearly I have had cake and I have eaten it. So there you go. That proves the point. Let's get to Tom. Tom's been waiting a long time. Tom, sir, how you doing?
Evening, Pete. How are you?
Hello, mate. Yeah. Oh, yes. We're just pulling out, as ever, kind of dealing with this as a kind of almost therapy session, and the strange things that are going on with Watford. But what are your thoughts? Because are we being too harsh? Are we being too melodramatic, or are you feeling kind of similar to earlier callers? What's on your mind?
I echo everything that's been said so far. That's top 3 worst Watford games I've been to. Honestly, I don't know about you, Pete, but
go on, mate.
The start of the game felt like a League Cup game against a League 2 opposition. Everything felt so complacent. We had that one good bit of play early on, and it was almost like, okay, we've cut them apart. We can do that all game now, and everyone just dropped off. It was so complacent. There was no urgency. It was just everything was so passive. I've calmed down a bit now, but I was so angry watching that.
It was funny. Justin gave us a lift back after, and he called it out and said that was exactly like that League Cup game against MK Dons under Ishmael when we lost 1-0 and they were exactly as you just described. That it lacks so much of intent, momentum, passion, all the things that are coming from the crowd who are there, regardless of numbers. Very, very frustrating indeed. Are there any kind of thoughts or tactical changes? I mean, we're getting into this kind of it's already been debated since the Norwich game about the 4-4-2. If we stuck you in the Yavi hot seat, in terms of pushing players around the pitch. Would you change the shape? Would you change personnel? Are there people in the team that you want to bring in, or is it a question of actually somebody needs to get in the dressing room and actually give them a good old, kind of once more run to the breach, kind of almost dare I say it, Paolo Pezzolano talking to?
Yeah, I don't know if I go that far, but
well done, good save.
Truthfully, I don't think, as much as you can point the finger at Javi and previous managers,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the squad's good enough. I mean, it sums it up, the fact that we can all see Kayembe is not good enough to play week in, week out in this team.
Yeah.
But it almost seems as though he's the only other option at the moment, with Cipriano being out of form. I don't know what's gone on with Duomo. I mean, every time I've seen him play, I think he's brilliant. And I know, granted, it's under 21s football, but you've probably seen the clips yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What he's done for the under 21s, like, he looks a world beater. And again, like I say, it's under 21s, complete different kettle of fish. But how can he not get any minutes in this team? Do you have an idea of what's gone on there?
Well, well, sort of similar. You will have seen that he's moved agent. I mentioned something earlier on. My understanding is not dissimilar has happened. But the thing is that there are other players who Javi's got in the team, and or in the squad, and for whatever reason tonight he's decided not to use them. There's Nampalys Mendy, who has played a decent level, and in a game where it felt like, and we talk about the 4-4-2 or what have you, it just felt like we needed to win the midfield a little bit more today. He got both Cipriano on the bench. He got Nampalys Mendy on the bench, and he didn't choose to make a tactical change or really a personnel change in that particular area. It does feel limited when both your strikers aren't really doing an awful lot. I understand why he wants to keep them on to enhance the chance that a ball into the box would be there, but we weren't utilizing it enough, and we weren't moving the ball quickly enough to get the ball into properly threatening situations. And what was happening was Wednesday were just dropping deep and just having to kind of clog everything up and interrupt everything. Very, very, very frustrating. I know. I was slowly turned around on Duomo. I know Caden of the Hornet Talk podcast. He's loved him since before he'd even seen him, I think, and was really kind of positive about it. But we do look, as Paul Mostyn says, on here, it looks thin in terms of what Javi is prepared to use. If he's being inflexible, then he needs to start flexing and utilize the breadth of the squad, because otherwise we'll be knackered over Christmas as well.
Yeah, and he's shooting himself in the foot by playing the likes of Kayembe. I know, like you've mentioned, he's not got a wide range of choices there, but if you're going to play Kayembe week, I mean, you've said it countless times, he's so slow on the ball.
Yeah.
Every time we turn over possession and we go forward and Kayembe gets the ball, it's just like all the life is sucked out of you, because you know that he's going to take 10 touches before he plays a pass sideways or backwards. Yeah. And on that, again, like, I know he's had a few good stints of late, Tom Ince, but I think we saw today when he come on, every time he got the ball, it was just backwards or sideways. Granted, he's an experienced head that's good to have within the squad, but if you're relying on him to come on and change a game, I know he's had a couple of good cameos of late and he scored at the weekend, but he's not good enough to be playing regular football for us. I know we've got injuries and stuff, but yeah, and Dumbia as well. I don't know if it's true that we've rejected 10 million from Burnley for him, but whoever rejected that, in my opinion, needs to be sacked, because 10 million for that. I think Rich mentioned, he's only got a left foot. I think, was it Loser that whipped a lovely ball in towards the keeper, and Dumbia had a free header and he just completely missed it?
Yeah. It's always an easy game to play from the stands, of course, but you're not. Yeah. But you're not wrong. However, as was stated earlier on, 1 defeat in 8 today wasn't a defeat, but it felt like one, didn't it? It really did. It was, kind of, as I say, I almost felt more angry because we'd scored that last week in an equaliser. And yes, I know I'm a hypocrite, and yes, that makes no sense. But hey, welcome to me.
I felt exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's a weird feeling, isn't it? Yeah. You're almost wanting the ball not to go in.
Frankly, Tom, if everybody else could stop trying to make us make sense, it would be so much easier for both you and I. it was just one of those games where you just think, oh, for God's sake, we aren't that far away. This league is not good. It needs a team who can put out some consistent performances, and we have to acknowledge again, this isn't just this will sound like a Marks and Spencer's advert for Sheffield Wednesday's woes, but this isn't just the bottom of the table team. This is a team and a squad that has had the shit kicked out of it for 3 years repetitively, and all they had today was they had Barry Bannon in the middle, and at halftime he went off, and they just kept fighting and they just kept working. And I'm not playing that down. Fair play to them, and their supporters magnificent, coming down and supporting in a time when, you know, the FA, who only ever basically ruin supporters, you know, I mean, not being daft, Dejan Chanchiri has fucked off. What the fine of points actually now does for the club is beyond me. Absolutely ridiculous. Magnificent they were. But we should have had enough to come against the bottom two teams in this division, and especially the one that's been right royally pummeled, you know, emotionally, financially, every single which way. And they came along, and when after about 5 minutes, we think we might be able to nick something here. We might be able to get something. And they very, very, very nearly got what they deserved. They didn't quite get it in the end, but never mind. Tom, sir, thank you very much indeed for the call. Please do call in again. Excellent stuff. Love that. Tom is not interested in making sense. He's just like me in that regard, and I like that very much. Boyd's been waiting forever. Sorry, Boyd, I'm coming to you. Then we're going to try and come to Iggy, see how we're going, and then we've got John and we've got Jason. If Jason hasn't already got to Wallingford, Boyd, sir. What? Oh dear. What are your thoughts today? Are you still with us there?
Yes, I am. Well, I think top to bottom, it's a farce. You look at the squad. Let's go backwards.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the squad. We have 3 forwards in Semedo, Luca, and Dumbia.
Yeah.
Not one of them can play. Now, maybe they'll be able to play in 2 years, but I might be dead. So, you know, that's ridiculous. They might be good in 2 years. Who cares?
No, okay.
Yeah, if you're Chelsea, you can do that because you've got some great players as well.
In fairness, Boyd, I have been the one who has said that, but I wasn't taking your kind of impending mortality into the equation. You're quite right. I take it back and I apologise. Carry on, sir.
That's quite all right. So that's the first thing, right? We have loads of centre halves because they obviously thought we were going to play 3 at the back.
Yeah.
And now we don't. So we've got too many of them. We haven't got enough midfielders. So the squad's weak. And I agreed with your last caller, Duxbury's pathetic bullshit about we don't want to stifle the development of our younger players.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we won't. You know, it was pathetic. But anyway, now let's talk about Javi.
Yep.
He doesn't seem to be improving people, which is a worry. He seems inflexible, which is a worry. And we don't have any style of play. So everything is so slow. Now, he gave them a bit of a rocket. We saw him say, not good enough in the first half, boys, this is Norwich.
Yeah.
So we came out and for 7-8 minutes, we looked all right. And then we went back to normal. Shaq's clearly not fit. Couldn't even win a tackle. It's not his fault, but he's not fit.
Yeah.
Both Mendy's are clearly not in the manager's good books, as the same with Duomo. This is crying out for 3 in midfield. I don't know why he's not doing it. And your point, Pete, was the passing is so slow. Yeah. We have nobody running beyond, so we can never hit a ball over the top. And you know what I mean by that, down the channels. So nobody moves off the ball. At the last 10 minutes, I was laughing because we had 8 players in front of the ball, all of them standing fucking still.
The movement was awful. People might wonder, or probably they'd just be going, Pete, it's late, shut up and get on with it. But you know, what does Boyd mean by people running in behind? That when Iran Kunda was on it, he was running through the middle and he was breaking and he was going beyond Kieran So if the ball was played on, Kieran had an option to try and bring it down or just flick it on if he could do, and you might break the line. What that does to the opposition back line is it forces them to think about the space 10 and 15 yards behind them. Almost inevitably, they will drop to cover that. Think about defenders when they used to be up against Matty Vidra, who was lightning. And, we would basically play that. He would time or curve his run, and then Deeney would just get a flick, and then we go on. I know, I appreciate that's old school, but that's what pace does for you. That, in turn, means that your midfielders, when you have the ball, are not under so much pressure because the back line are sitting 10 or 15 yards further back, and therefore their midfield are having to work, and therefore you can get the ball and you can move it into areas. If you do not manage to have frontline speed of trying to threaten to go in behind, and this is on the wide as well as through the middle, of course. Yes. Then they will sit up on you. They will block out basically stifle the midfield and stop you being able to get in.
And that's down to the manager, Pete. That's got to be down to the manager. I accept that, you sometimes wonder about how many brain cells these players have got altogether.
Mm-hmm.
What frightens me is we get the ball in midfield and it goes left to Bowler. Who gives it to Pollock? Who gives it to Elaine? Who gives it back to Bowler? Who gives it to Loser, who looks up and no one's moving? And that happened again and again and again and again. So unfortunately, we have a situation where the players either aren't listening to him or just aren't learning and aren't improving.
Yeah.
I think it's unfortunate Jack's not fit. I'm not a fan of Irankunda. I know I'm going to get pelters for this, but I think he's far too inconsistent, doesn't do enough. Love the look of Mama.
Yeah.
But now I'm struggling. The entire bloody team. Come on.
Well, there was a point in the first half, and there was a gentleman just in front of me to the right who I haven't seen before, and he didn't know that basically I only speak two languages. One is English, barely, sarcasm, very, very fluent, and we had an opportunity to basically counterattack, and there was no pace in the whole of the team to do it. No one to break the line, other than Mama, who was on the far side, and we were on. We were kind of an opportunity to break down the left, but we moved the ball so slowly, we moved physically so slowly that it was just the opportunity to counterattack was lost. Sorry about everybody reminding it.
So Pete, what is the solution? Because he's got to find one quick, because he could lose his job without geniuses that own this club.
Well, I mean,
and at the moment, I don't think a lot of people would be that upset. And isn't that terrible? We've lost 1 in 8. And if he got sacked Saturday, if we got beat, I don't think there'd be a big to-do. I was at the ground tonight.
Yeah.
I could not believe how empty it was.
It was, it was definitely, and midweek games are difficult. But of course, if but bearing in mind where we are and how we are and what this should have been, obviously one always hopes to see it, but I've always got kind of sympathy, and Melanie kind of calls it out. She said, people are unwell, COVID, flu, etc. I've got COVID again, so Melanie, hope you're feeling better very soon. Also, it cost me £100 to get home with everything included, so not people attending. No. That that was a thing from Saturday, because it was a Saturday game, but Saturday's an early game. So what happened with COVID was it stopped people's, and the pandemic, it stopped people's rhythms of going to games. This is what I do. There would have been people going, at the time, and people were talking in 2019 about, having to miss the first game that they'd missed for, 20, 30, 40 years at home.
I think that's very fair.
And it meant that, oh, right, okay. And of course, what did we all get used to? We all got used to watching it on the telly as well. Now, that's not wrong. We're in the middle of it, and we went through this on Saturday, a cost of living crisis. You've got all sorts of things going on with jobs and
there are clubs in areas that are considered far more impoverished than ours that are packed.
They are, but they would tend to be Premier League sides. because you will always get, the demand for that. If we look at the impact of, and the other thing that Melanie didn't mention, but we did talk about the other day, was the Sky deal, which now means that every single midweek or non-3 o'clock game, you can catch it on your Sky Plus sort of subscription. I know not everybody's got that, but they can go to the pub and watch it, or they can do, go to a friend, etc. It means that, again, with those habits having been broken, it's an option to do. Now, I'm not an advocate for even the 3 o'clock blackout, but I think football is in danger of eating itself, because the product as a whole incorporates the supporters, the cost of travel, of fuel, of trains, exactly as Melanie's mentioned there. It makes it a very very difficult thing to be able to cost, especially at this time of year when people are paying for to give gifts to their families and all of these things.
I still think that if the players were playing better and it was more exciting, you'd get more people.
That's I will not disagree with you.
I mean, everything the club does, everything, even that pathetic Your Song before the game. I am 70, and I first saw Elton when I was 15 in the Roundhouse. So I'm a big, big fan. That's the worst bloody song in the world for a crowd to sing. And we don't. So, you listen to these other crowds singing their song before the game, and I know we're not Premier League.
Yeah.
But Jesus Christ, who came up with that idea? Play I'm Still Standing or something to get us going. Well, we start the game with a love song. Oh, it's just beautiful. Well, I know I'm changing the subject.
No. I was on one of the I suppose bonuses or what have you of doing this sort of nonsense is you occasionally get kind of invites through people, and I was on with Colin Murray on Radio 5 with him and Pat Nevin, who was a wonderful player. Right. People remember Pat Nevin.
Yeah,
and they do a slot on a Sunday, and it's called The Great Football Songbook, and go through the songs associated with the club. And we did talk about Your Song, because it is the song that's affiliated kind of with him and with us now. And at one point I thought it was starting to kind of catch hold, but it's it doesn't necessarily gone in at this moment in time. So it's one of those. The thing that I called out, and I, because it was like, what are your thoughts on it? And I said, the thing that I love, and I've had a few younger people go, what are you talking about? That was Chariots of Fire, when they were doing the warming up. If anybody remember, Vangelis had a wonderful piece in the film, and basically, and I said, it's still to this day, there's a film, it's all about the Olympics in, I think it was 1918 or 14 or whatever it was, in Paris. And there's a shot of them all basically warming up and running on the beach, and this marvelous music is running, and it all goes into slow motion. And in my mind, mentally, Will Frostron is still passing the ball over 60 yards during the warm up, and I tell you now, it's in slow motion, and Vangelis is playing. That's the song I'd like to see. But we'll see if probably not the rousing rendition that you would want anyway. But hey,
do you agree, Pete, that we've really got to play three in midfield now?
I think tonight we definitely needed to see it. Ironically, the way he plays a 4-4-2, normally the old days, if you remember, he had Will Hughes on one side and he had Bobby Pereira on the other, not your traditional wingers, and they would be inverted. So they would kind of come in, and we'd actually sort of end up having a quite narrow 4-4-2. We could do that because you would be playing, Troy up front, and at various times, obviously, yes, you would also have Gray as well, but you had the joy of having Doucouré and Etienne Capoue inside as well. We got away with it because of that. He hasn't got the same team, and I think tactically more teams are playing a three in the middle, and we get outnumbered, not necessarily outclassed, but outnumbered, and therefore we're very, very bad at picking up second ball. And keeping the pressure on. So there we go. Wonderful stuff as ever, Boyd. Thank you very much indeed. And if you remember, Boyd was the first one to alert us to North London Forever being sung at the Arsenal, and how stirring and how anthemic that was, and whether or not that would kind of get people rising up and going. Let's see if we can get to Iggy. Sorry to keep you all waiting there, people, and then I'll come to John Parslow, then to Jason, then we'll get back to Uncle Ron. Iggy, sir, are you there? Iggy's been waiting forever. I just want to see if we can get Iggy in. Iggy, if you want to hit your mic button down the bottom left.
Can you hear me now?
I've got you loud and clear. Iggy, triumph.
Oh,
Well done, sir. How you doing?
Can I just say, long-time listener, first-time caller, I'm really happy to be on the podcast right now.
Lovely stuff. You're most welcome. Well, let's let you be the former of the agenda. What would you like to mention and discuss?
Well, I don't think the game was as bad as people are saying.
Okay.
I think we created enough chances to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
I think Chak Fatatske should have scored in the first half. I think Mama should have scored in the first half. I think I listened to the opposition view, and I had Charlie McNeil to score first because we always concede first.
There you go. There speaks a voice of experience. Yeah, go on.
We always concede first, and we always give ourselves a mountain to climb.
Yeah.
And the referee didn't help at all. He let them how that goalkeeper's got away without booking today is just crazy to me. I mean, he let them waste that game away.
Agreed.
And I think we could have won that game. I do agree with everything that's been said, though. I think the 4-4-2. I think if we have a holding midfielder in there, then we don't give away that shot on the edge of the box. There's got to be someone back there helping the back four.
Well, you've got Nampalys Mendy on, and I know he's literally 5'6". We're in the station, everybody. I like this for background atmosphere.
Yeah. I'm on the train home to London.
Oh, righty-ho. Nampalys Mendy isn't going to cover it in the air and what have you, but you've got Pollock behind him. You've got, a lane behind him to try and deal with that. But the one thing he'll do is he'll mop up and he will win a bit of that second ball and try and keep the pressure on. The problem, as ever, though, is when you put 3 in, you're taking players away. So the question is, do you, as Paul Holly mentioned earlier on, do you go to a 3-5-2 to get an extra man in midfield but retain 2 up front, or would you go with a 4-3-3? Which would be your preferred option if we put you in the heavy hot seat for a short while?
I think we got to try the 4-3-3. I think, like everything that's been said, like we're getting outnumbered in midfield every game. Kayembe is too slow on the ball, way too slow on the ball. And I think just a third midfielder in there would allow the likes of Loser to get further forward and just play with a bit more freedom and just have someone like Kiprianu at the back there, just, Hector the Protector, as he's been called. Just mopping up, being an extra man in the box, because every time there's a cross in the box, we seem to concede. It's happened every game.
Yeah. Or it's off of a second ball or a knockdown, and they're there and up to doing it and playing it very quickly. What did you make of Harry Amas today, playing left back for them? Very young, was playing in our under 18s as a 15-year-old 3 years ago. What were your thoughts on him?
Yeah, well, Chak, you got a feel for him because he's been out, but I thought he had a bad game today, to be honest. I was happy to see him go off. I thought that was the right decision. And to be fair to Javi, Kevin last game, he's not afraid to. Kevin wasn't even the squad today, so I don't know what's happened there, but that goal he conceded last week was disgraceful, and I thought it was the right decision to start Elaine instead today. And again, Chak coming off at half time, I thought that was good. But you're right. He couldn't do anything against Amas today. He just had everything we put against him in his pocket. And I thought Amas was brilliant today.
I think he's a fine young player who is we're going to be pig sick that we didn't get to keep him. There's another debate about the fact that the club did nothing wrong. It's the what's called EPPP, elite player performance plan, and other teams can come in and basically select your players and take them away. There's nothing you can do about it. But you've got to hope that one day you will be keeping one and they'll be good enough to go through. But there we go. Iggy, sir, thank you very much for the first call. I'm going to ask you if you would. I'm not going to ask you for a Man of the Match award today. I'm going to ask you for who would you put down as the player of the season so far for yourself? Who would you? Which player do you think has stood out above and beyond the rest?
Well, I've been really impressed with the fullbacks, to be honest, and I think Jeremy Ngakia has risen a level this season, and I've heard a lot of people praising Jeremy Ngakia, and it's a shame I have a season ticket.
Right.
I go every week. It's a shame. I saw the ground today. I agree with that. It was empty. It was very empty.
Yeah.
There's a lot of empty seats. It's sad to see, but I've got a lot more vocal because of that. Because I feel there's no one around me. I used to have my uncle's away on work.
Okay.
My granddad's unfortunately unwell.
Oh,
he
sorry.
can't come to the game. So I've got I've got a row of empty seats next to me. So I feel like I have to make up the noise.
Well done. Well done.
And the thing I find myself shouting the most is go on Jeremy, because going forward, last week, put in that excellent cross for Kiramgard. If you put it, Kiramgard, not sure what to think about him, but if you put it on his head, he scores. And
the person who does that the most is at the moment is Jeremy Ngakia from deep positions. That little connection, Jeremy into Kiramgard is good. We just don't get enough service into him, do we?
I think Jeremy has been electric this season, both going forward. Last game, he put in that tackle that just got the whole stand off their feet. And I think Jeremy's been the standout this season for me.
Lovely stuff.
I think Marma's a really exciting player, but he reminds me a bit of Chak Fatatske in that he looks really good on the ball, can beat his man, got really nice feet, but that end product is just lacking. And he had a chance in the game that he had so much of the net to aim at, and he put it over the bar.
Yeah.
And I just think that scoring, getting back to 1-1 in that first half could have really changed the game for us today.
I'm in agreement with you. Absolutely. Well, look,
I just think if we had a bit more end product from the wingers, from Chak, from Dumbia, he's got a nice touch. He drops in. He helps the midfield a bit when we're playing in that too.
Mm-hmm.
But just that end product from all our forwards is a bit lacking.
Well, I tell you what, TJ VE4GU says, can we play 4 at the back and 6 across midfield so none of the strikers get to play? That seems very damning. Well, look, Iggy is doing a fine job and probably an example of what the rest of us should do. He's making enough noise for 3 generations, which is a good idea. Maybe that's what we need to do. Say, sod, doesn't matter about the gaps. Let's everybody kind of rally behind and get it. Iggy, sir, thank you ever so much for the first call in. Please don't let it be the last. Excellent stuff. Let's get to John. Appreciate. Obviously, it's a school night for everyone, so we're gonna rattle through. John, hit your mic button and let's see if we can't get you working for the first time in a few weeks. How you doing?
Hi, Pete. Can you hear me? Yes.
I've got you loud and clear.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. I have to come off headphones. So,
no problem. No problem.
I'll have to work. I have another player who's improved since Javi for Mr. Holly.
Okay. Who's your thoughts?
Sissoko. Much better performances since he's been in. So I'll leave that. So yeah, that aside,
yes.
I don't know. There's a lot of negativity tonight, I think, but as usual, I'll just try and balance it out a bit. But
far away.
A wise man once told me.
Yep.
And it's my dad, and he's, as you know, 90 soon, so he's very wise.
Happy birthday, Mr. P.
If you can't win, don't lose. Okay.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think the problem is, it's the level of the opposition, but it's just, the problem tonight. And a few people touched on it. I mean, you cannot keep going 1-0 down and getting away with it. And tonight, I mean, in a way, we did get away with it, but to a point. But we're just making it hard, just making it ridiculously hard for ourselves. And, and I think part of the body language goes through the players is just simply like, oh, shit, we've got to score 2 again, and you're just putting up barriers, and as people said, if Czech scores, I think we go on and win that 3 or 4. I actually thought, we weren't pressing, so there wasn't quite enough intensity.
Yeah.
But there were some positives, right? So I'll try and do the good bits, right?
Do the positives. You balance this out because, as has been pointed out earlier on in an excellent comment on YouTube, we are 1 defeat in 8. Kind of there's balance to be had. I think the frustration from everybody tonight in terms of, yes, the opposition, but not just the opposition, but the absolute shoeing that they have taken mentally. And, we know nobody gets another team's season up and running like Watford. We are absolutely aware of that. But also, we keep looking at ourselves and talking about ourselves and talking about the playoffs, along with about another dozen teams in this league, about, well, we'll get a sense of momentum. We'll get it going. And I think the reason why people were feeling negative tonight was this felt like 2 games against the bottom of the table teams who are both up against it. And the performances for both teams have not been up to snuff. The results, we've got 4 points from 2 games. But this really should have been a game where it's not even the performance or the night. It's the fact of what has been missed, the opportunity to grasp the nettle and actually start to turn this season around, because we can't keep saying it and it not happening. Anyway, so over to you. Let's go forward with some positive thoughts. Over to John.
Yeah, no, I'm going to agree with it because I still expect us to be in playoff positions for Christmas. But these next 2 games will sort this out a little bit to see where we are a little bit. But I think positive is if you go to the back, right? I thought Elaine played well, and in fact, I thought apart from that one moment, and again, Bowler should have cut the cross out, quicker. And that's part of the problem. I kept shouting and going, just get 2 yards nearer, right? He's 5 yards off him. Need to be 3 yards off him, just to get blocking. But apart from that, the back four, and I thought Elaine was moving the ball, at times forward. There was a time when he passed it really quickly into Luzan. He got it forward, and we were breaking, and it didn't happen enough because once they did score, we were obviously going back. So I think the back four was quite interesting. I think the problem for Javi a little bit is there's 2 dynamics going on, right?
Right.
A little bit hamstrung on losing players.
Yep.
Trying to look at both Aaron Kunda and Chak.
Yep.
Check for Tadze and going, I need you because I've lost Vata and Bar. I need you to get some game time. We've got the luxury of Mama. Might lose him to Morocco. Whatever. I think we need to send. By the way, for Mama, I think we need to immediately spam the Moroccan FA with that miss of his and say, just basically go, he's not ready. He's just not ready.
Oh, absolutely. That's a good plan. John is very good at bringing silver linings out of clouds. I like that. It's a good idea.
Yeah. But so he's trying to integrate them, and and Chak, I was watching him. He's half a yard off still. He hasn't got that acceleration to get away from the player. Do you know what I mean? He was impossible to get the ball off, and he can't get away from the player. So he's still, he's how long it's going to take him to get anything like to any level is difficult. He's been last 2 games. We're talking about we didn't quite perform. He's tried to integrate him. Aaron Kunda, it was a car crash, wasn't it, when he came on? So I don't know what they do, but for that one. So he's trying to integrate that. It's ironic now though a little bit that we're talking about. We've been going on for ages. Oh, we love 2 up front. We want 2 up front. No, we want 2 up front. Nobody wants 2 up front anymore. But it's more about the personnel and the thing. So I think there's a blending issue, and I think we're just going through this little period of readjustment, and he's got to find a way and find out what he's trusting. And I'll come back to one of the things I think he needs to do.
Yeah.
But as you said, despite that, by hook or by crook, we are still picking at, not 1 loss in 8, so whatever, and we are climbing up the table slowly. But these next 2 games, I think it's Wrexham and then Stoke, isn't it? So that'll probably tell us a little bit properly where we are, and then let's have a conversation about Javi. I'm a bit disappointed people are already writing things off. I mean, this, we need to stop doing this. That's That's the main point.
What,
But yeah.
What are people writing off? Sorry.
Well, I see no seem to be writing off happy. I'm getting vibes of, doesn't know what he's doing. It's tactical and flexible. Blah blah blah.
I think that's an interesting observation, because I do think that any other football team, you would talk about the manager and about what he's done wrong today, and it doesn't presuppose that everybody's saying get shot all the time. I think that's almost personal to us because of the environment. We've done a lot of talking about the culture and how it's kind of seeped into, as I described it, into the water table. It's sort of our thinking. I don't think anybody wants Javi not to succeed, but it's an interesting kind of balancing term. And we've spoken about the fact that the club have appointed managers very often in order to solve the problem created by the last manager that they appointed. And one of the things that the club came out and said was that consistency in terms of selection was one of the things that they wanted to see. And I think it's a question of balance, because if you've got the team that's being put out all of the time and not using the rest of the subs to either affect the game or change the game, I think that's something we can discuss and talk about in his way without wanting to call for his head. I agree with you wholeheartedly there. Absolutely. I don't think anybody wants to necessarily see him, but hey, some people may well do. But here, I think it's more of a question of, let's get in and discuss and see what we think. Anyway, so sorry, I didn't mean to cut across you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. No, because you're right. I mean, it's just, we start getting into the critique without maybe some balance and some mitigating circumstances of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the one thing then I would say with Harry a little bit, he has various players. This is the only thing that's concerned me a little bit is and you mentioned it earlier, various players, it seems like it just doesn't seem to trust them, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't trust anybody with the name Mendy, but
yes.
Abankwah seems to have slipped out because he had a poor game.
Yep.
And Cipriano now as well. Now, anybody, the Birmingham game, Cipriano didn't have that great game. I don't think it was that bad, but it was, it was enough to come off. But then hasn't been seen. And, sometimes you'd hope, look, take him out for a couple of games and bring him back in. It's this bringing them back in again, because, him and Loser were working, and it works very differently, because a few people have said, sometimes I like to go to 3, and said this before.
Yeah.
But when Cipriano's there, he does get into that protector system, and he drops into, and it almost becomes a 3, and then the fullbacks put on. So we kind of need him in there. So it's interesting. I wonder if, I suspect he might go for 3 midfield because we're away now against Wrexham. But it's just, have we got enough firepower? And I think the trouble is he's trying to compensate with the fact that he knows he hasn't got a forward that's going to dominate. So he's trying to play two to couple it. Just on Doumbia tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of things. Not enough of quality crosses were coming in when we were coming in for all things. So that's one thing. But also when we were really tight, and this is Kurngard and then Doumbia as well.
Yep.
Well, when we're playing too intricate, they need to hold the ball in the box. Sometimes the ball's been played into their feet in the box, and they're trying to lay it off first time. And it's just like
decision making,
destroying the house, house. They're just laying it off and awfully. But Doumbia, I was watching it a lot. He was making lots of runs. So everybody's saying nobody's running in behind. He was. The trouble is they're kind of aimless, and he was trying to break, and a lot of time the ball wasn't being released quick enough. So and then I guess to a certain point they give up and stop doing it. But yeah, it's not working. So on balance, I'm sort of saying, look, it's far from good at the moment, but we're another draw is it's just really frustrating.
Well, I think maybe what we need to see,
it's not as bad as all that. We just need to take chances as well. So.
Maybe what we need to see from Javi is the fact that, and speaking as a manager previously, anybody can go right. You've had a bad game, or you've had a bad series of games. I'm going to drop you to I'm going to take you out for some time out, kind of recoup, get yourself going, and then go. he hasn't really yet been in necessarily long enough to see those reintroductions. We would hope that you would see that if Kevin wasn't, and again, going back to Paul's point earlier on, yeah, Kevin hasn't. I think for me, Kevin is an erratic player. He is either brilliant or he is shocking, and there is, it's one of the two. So let me just. Sorry, there we just had a load of noise in the background. So what we need to see is, okay, you've taken Cipriano out. Can we work with him in a development context? Can we improve what he's doing and then reintroduce him with hopefully those other added parts? Part of the Ajax philosophy was always you take the player out and you work on the particular part, you reintroduce and integrate that improved element with the game, and then you bring him back into the game. And at the end of the day, all of the individual things as a player, all of those component parts of that player that he does, all his physicality, all his work, all his mental work, all his power, his strength, his technique, become more than the sum of their individual parts. That is certainly the concept, and we need to see that with players reintroduced, because otherwise we are going through squad members and just going, right, Kevin, no, he's gone, replace him, and therefore, oh no, Cipriano, he's out, he's gone. We've got to see, how do we improve these players? How do we develop them? If we're not including them in the team, how are we going to develop them? And then how do we reintroduce them? So that point that Paul made earlier on was very, very salient. Are the players improving over time? For me personally, it might be some improvement in the players who've dropped out. Let's get to Jason Rose, who I imagine now is back in Wallingford. Jason, sir, what were your thoughts from tonight?
Hi, Pete.
Hello,
yeah, I just wanted just a couple of things. Picking up on some really good points tonight. I think it's been a really good sort of phone in. There's been some really good things, but I mean, the alarm bells were ringing at whatever time, 6:30, when the formation again.
Right.
I mean, we all came together, didn't we, after Saturday, and said, we need an extra body in midfield. I don't know if anybody here listened to the From the Rookery Ends. Colin made a very passionate plea for a third body in midfield, and I completely agreed with it.
Yeah.
And then we get tonight, and it's just the same stuff. It's rinse and repeat. And again, going back to some of the other things, Chak's clearly not fit. My concern with Chak is that we've taken Marmer away from his best position, in my opinion, on the left with Bowler to supplement Chak. But Chak hasn't really earned the right to play that position yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
He needs to. The Mama Bowler thing seemed to be really. I mean, set up the winning goal, for Christ's sake, on Saturday, and yet we seem to sacrifice that to bring in Chak, who, I agree with what John just said. He's at least half a yard off it, and I know. Obviously, our friend Mr. Ron in America is very passionate about the old reserves. Chak needs to go play in the reserves. If there was the old reserve league, the old Southern Counties, he should be playing in that, to get this touch. I mean, a couple of times, first off, the touch was so heavy. It was so heavy. It was lethargic. He's really off it, and he hasn't earned the right yet to start in that 11. So, I think I personally think, and I'm just a very laborious way of saying, I think he needs to go to 3 at the back. It needs to be 3-5-2, and get an extra body in midfield. I would play Cipriano in there as a holder, because Imran can't do it. He can't do everything. Yeah. And Kiembe only seems to turn around in circles. So for me, and just actually, while I'm on Kiembe, is it right that tonight was his last game before the AFCON, or is that incorrect, Pete?
I must confess, I am not sure. I'd have to go and look. I mean, it's going to be.
There was rumours.
Yeah.
There was rumours. I didn't know if that was the case. But if that's the case, then I'll wave him off to Heathrow. But if it's not the case, then go on, Edo.
I think the frustration. I think the frustration with KMB is that everybody knows there is a player in there. There is a useful tool for the manager to be able to bring on. For example, and obviously his performance against Derby was really good.
Yeah.
But that was in, you know, kind of that was in a 4-2-3-1, if I remember correctly. And
Yeah.
he was playing in behind the front. So again, we had changed it a little bit to bring in kind of three there, and then he got forward and got his goals. I think, you know,
Yeah.
I think, yes, at the start and during this game, he just slows it down and does that all the time. Interesting point. I just put across to you, because we've been chatting with you know, the Wednesday Till I Die podcast, all the guys up there, lovely people, and anybody you can still listen to the opposition view for this game, because it really's got sod all to do with the opposition. It's got far more to do with fellow supporters of a club who have suffered and just going through, and it's about empathy more than anything else. And you know, tonight, and they put a note, evening Pete, if you could finish, then you'd have won at ease. Frustration kicked in, and first time we've employed the dark arts. So you know that there was absolutely time wasting. I'm not going to blame Sheffield Wednesday for that. I am going to have a go at the linesman, sorry, at the referee, I should say. Sorry.
Yes.
And because there was one glorious moment, and I'm pitched in the ground in the family end, where I can hear what the 1881 are singing, and I can also hear what the Sheffield Wednesday away fans, and they were one singing in unison, which was "You're not fit to referee," from both sides. You know, one will give you it absolutely, but when both are, holy hell! As you said, football is a very, very cruel game. Well, look, nobody knows about the cruelty of it like Sheffield Wednesday. So anybody who's travelling still up on the M1 going back north, be they Watford or Luton, safe journeys to you. It's just one of those nights. There's also people who have said, you know, kind of, well, hold on, there's you know, it is this one defeat in 8. We've got to be realistic. It was awful, but what are we going to say? And yes, Samuel, I am paraphrasing you. Thank you, sir, for your comment. Are we just too expectant? Go on.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of that. I just want to pick up one the young lad that was on the train. Sorry, but he said it was one of the worst games, top 3 worst games. Jesus Christ, boy! If you don't remember the Hodgson years, my God, I mean, Jesus.
Well,
you know, there was 19 of them to pick from in that season. But also, what I would say is, obviously, you know, we were talking about it at half time, and a group of us, and you know, we've been coming for years, and you probably remember this. Some of the other older fans remember this. You know, I remember the days of losing 3-0 at home to Yeovil, when Yeovil were, I mean, they were abortionate. They were a terrible side, and yet we managed to somehow let Yeovil, who hadn't won an away game all year, stick 3 goals past us. It was a terrible game of football. Honestly, I'd say to the younger vintage, the younger lads, you know, honestly, stick with it, because that wasn't as bad as what some of us older bastards have seen in the years. You know, it's a funny one. I was talking to my dad about it after we were coming away, and I said, you know, overall, I thought we played quite well in patches, and it was very much in patches. But what we lacked was composure in front of goal. And also, if we're going to play 2 up front, we've got to get the ball in the box. It's ridiculous. It's ludicrous. We play with wingers who don't cross the ball. You know, you've made a very good point, and I've said it before. The best 2 crosses of the ball in the club seem to be our 2 fullbacks.
Yeah,
which is mental. You know, so we play 2 big lumps up front. We don't put the ball in the box. You know, and the irony is the goal came from, we got so desperate, we put the ball in the box. Chaos reigns. Semedo puts the ball in the net. Yeah. It's not. We overcomplicate the game by trying to play little triangles through the middle of the opposition, when sometimes you get the ball wide, you get the goal, and just things happen, you know. And I just find us very frustrating. And Javi's got. I wish Javi. I want Javi to. I never want. You know, I really want Javi to succeed. And there are people on social media, and I had a quick read before I left Watford.
Okay.
And there are people sat on this podcast waiting to come on, I think, who want Javi gone, which is a ludicrous situation. It's madness. But you made a very good point. This is part of the monster that Gino has created, where, you know, all of a sudden 1 loss in 8 is not good enough. You know, I don't know. My feeling overall about the squad, it's not good enough. The squad is, you know, it's It's too young. You know, we talked about it, but me and my dad, you know, if we were to ludicrously get up, we would have to do what Swindon, sorry, they wish, Sunderland have done, which is rip the team to pieces. Literally rip the team to pieces, go into the market and replace the whole team.
And not
And that's what we would have to do, from the goalkeeper right the way through the back four. Well, maybe in Gakpo, but certain bowler maybe, but certainly 2 centre halves, the midfield. It's a whole new team. And, you know, it's better. This is a bit controversial. I'm finding it better under Javi, with a small B, than what it was under Pezzolano. It's by no means terrible. I think mid-table's about right for us. I love John. God bless you, John. But playoffs, my word, you are positive. But I think that's a bridge too far for me. It's a steady incremental change, and obviously some was brought up, and I will leave it in a minute so somebody else can quickly get on. Is the whole thing about Duxbury saying about, you know, well, we don't want to sort of stifle the young players' development. I mean, I get that, but it is a nonsense. If you really are, if we are a serious football club, we do need. It's obvious. You can see there's an obvious need for, you know. I mean, Liam Cooper played tonight for Sheffield Wednesday. I wanted Liam Cooper when we were talking about, you know, in the transfer window. I made a quite passionate case for Liam Cooper, and I really wanted him because I thought he was that old head, he was that old, grizzled, been there before. And we could do with a centre forward as well. You know, the same sort of, and they're out there, not Emmanuel Dennis, but there are out there that could do a job for us. And I just think they just need to be a little bit, not even bold, but just, you know, the problem is that there's no sale on value in the Liam Coopers of this world. And that's the problem. We are still the championship version of eBay. Well, you know, that's what we are.
Justin and I had this same or a similar conversation as we were walking back to the car, and my son was, you know, copping a deaf one as all sane sons would do to me at the best of times, and he was saying about, you know, but we are just, there's no point if we're just a trading vehicle. And I think the thing is, we've always been, you know, an eBay, for want of a better phrase, a trading vehicle, but it's about the balance, because we have got such a young, inexperienced team, and that's very easy to like, you know, enthusiasm, and we're bringing somebody in, they're going to have potential. We might see them in the team for 2 or 3, maybe even 4 years, who knows? However, there is a point of one of the elements around helping their development is having a John Eustace style player in and around the team. Frankly, I'm sorry, but Musa Sissoko has been a bust. He is not that. The thing I do like about Tom Ince is I think he does give us something, and I appreciate that the opinions will differ, but I think he does as the experienced player. So I can understand why Javi has shifted across to that, and less of Sissoko coming on, as he clearly is looking towards, you know, I would suggest retirement. But a couple of things I just wanted to ask you about in terms of comments. OJT Veto, one day you're going to have to let me know exactly how to pronounce this, because I'll never get it right. He says, we say they lack intent and passion, but is it the talent and tactical abilities lacking in the players? If they're young and inexperienced, is that what's missing? In terms of it, are we basically just kind of expecting more from a young team, because actually they're not quite as talented and not quite as tactically or technically able as we would hope?
I think a lot of them are they're technically very good. You know, they're technically very good on the ball. You know, they can see they've got talent, but you've got to have a little bit of aggression to go with that. And I think some of them haven't got that. That's the problem. They haven't got that sort of I don't know. I don't want to say nastiness, but they haven't got an edge to them. You know, there's a few of them. I mean, Irakunda's a fine example. The boy's got something. You know, you don't turn up at Bayern Munich if you're crap.
Yeah.
But I think the problem for him is that he walks around like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders.
Yes, he does.
You know, he loses the ball, and it's like, it looks like it drains out of him. It's a shame, and just needs someone to get hold of him and just, you know, I don't know, just get hold of him and say, come on, you know, it's gone, forget it, mate, move on to the next one, you know. And I think that there's a few of them like that in the squad. You know, I have concerns about Barr. around his injury. Obviously, his injury, he's not great. But I think he's another one who he seems to let things get on top of him very quickly. He doesn't have the ability to sort of shoulder things off and move on to the next. That was a mistake. I'll just move on.
Yeah,
that I think it's the mental fragility of some of these players that is probably lacking. Rather than, I mean, some of them are really talented. Really, they're fabulous, but that'll only get you so far. And then they need that little bit extra. So I'm gonna go because I've got to let other people get on.
Absolutely. So. All right, so well, look, thank you very much indeed. As they always say, oh, sorry, mate. As they always say, you only get experience after you needed it in the first place. Let's get to let's get across to Peter Hopwood. I haven't spoken to Peter for a little while. Peter, sir, are you there with us?
Hopefully I'm here. Can you hear me?
You definitely are there. Wherever there is, as we all know with Peter, he gets around a bit. He's what we call a gallivanter. He gallivants all over the place. Oh, sir, it's a strange old night, a strange old performance. We're sort of trying to mull out the 1 defeat in 8, which nobody can sniff at, 3 points off of the playoffs, and yet feeling after that performance, not really. The result, of course, absolutely, but the performance wasn't there. Our friends from Sheffield pointed out that if we could finish our dinner, we should have still won it. What did you make of proceedings, sir?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm not gallivanting anywhere right now.
Oh.
I'm at home in Croatia watching the game on TV, as I do every week. And always towards the end of the game, I'm always thinking to myself, I'm looking forward to listening. Although I don't come on here too often, I'm always listening, like many of us as well. So I was really looking forward to, although the result, although the game wasn't as what we wanted it to be, and the result as well, I'm looking forward to really hearing everybody else's comments and your comments as well. But listen, here's the thing. So 4 shots. They have 4 shots.
Yeah.
And 1 on target. And that goes in. We have, I've just looked at it, 17, I think. We've had 17, most of those in the second half, and 9 were on target. And it just, doesn't it just feel like it just this feeling of like desperation and frustration that through this, I'm looking at the game through the screen, but I guess for so many that are there at Vicarage Road, watching the game live, it must feel 10 times more difficult as well. But again, what you said, something you mentioned earlier on, getting stuck in. I just felt so many players were not getting stuck in. Pollock, I felt was, and he showed that as well. But our strikers at the front there don't feel like there was enough oomph or enough punch ready for a team. Maybe in their minds, this was not a pushover, but certainly this is one they certainly felt they were going to win. Certainly felt it wasn't going to be as tough, perhaps, as the Norwich game, right? But it certainly was. And something like 20 minutes into the game, I was watching live on TV. Streaming wise, there were things happening. It was kind of going on and off. So I'm lucky enough to I can go on to all the other championship streams live. So I went straight to Sheffield Wednesday, and the Sheffield Wednesday commentary, they were like it almost felt like they knew they probably weren't going to win this, but very kind of content and happy. Just keep holding things off as they did throughout the game, waiting a little bit of time, but kind of content with what was going on. And then, of course, second half, I went back to the Watford stream, and it just felt although we didn't get the result we wanted to do, I did feel from something like 50th minute, 60th minute, we had a chance. We had a chance to get those 2 goals because we were just pounding and pounding and pounding. But again, you can have all that pounding going on, but if they're not good crosses coming in, if they're not kind of taking shots straight at the goal, our final piece at the end, the final piece of the puzzle towards the goal, although we had 17 shots, 9 on target, it just didn't feel it was going our way.
I think
does that make sense?
I agree. Fundamentally, and I appreciate cliche alert, everybody. Pete's here, obviously. But as they always say, goals change games. And us constantly conceding the first goal allowed Sheffield Wednesday and love Wednesday till I die. Fantastic people, lovely guys, and have said, if you finished, you had the chances still, and you didn't finish it. If you don't finish it, then fine. Yes, they'll employ the dark arts, but you still got to finish it. But what it allowed them to do tactically was simply drop and sit in behind the ball, 10 men behind the ball every single time. And they worked constantly and doggedly to try to stop it. Fundamentally, if we keep giving that first goal away, it allows us to be hit on the break or for the opposition to sit deep, and then it's very difficult to open up the spaces. So, I think fundamentally in the season, we've got to do something around making sure that we are far more resolute from the start in terms of when the ball is coming in and around our area, because you can't say we haven't got a soft underbelly, because we've conceded the first goal in so many games. It's ridiculous. I think we've gone ahead in the game. I think it's 3 times this season, and that was the 19th league game. So the maths would suggest that we've done it an awful lot where we've not managed to get that first goal, and it does allow them to come away, especially away from home, where a team will set themselves up to go, we're here to do a job on you. We're not here to make it, kind of simple for you. Mr. Briz, 2798, thanks, Mr. Briz, says, disappointing not to get the win. It's so Watford of us to lose to a team we should 100% beat. At least we showed the character to fight until the end and get something out of the game. And that's absolutely true. I mean, fundamentally, we know that we finished games stronger than we start them. That's almost the nub of it. If we could make a difference to conceding the first goal in so many games and make it an even number, we would see a difference in the chart, most certainly, because we could get hold of games, get a goal up, and then the opposition have to come at you, and then it opens spaces in behind them. We've obviously got problems with injuries and with a lack of pace throughout the side. With such devastating injuries as Barr can be if he's fully fit. Rocco Vata will open people up. We know Iran Kunda is a shadow of himself at this moment in time, but he's got straight line speed as well. If you're a goal up against a team and they're having to kind of crash on your defensive rocks and you're able to break with speed, it's a different game. And at the moment, we are very pedestrian when we have the ball, and we don't trouble people with pace or indeed power, which is very frustrating. Thank you, Peter. Lovely stump there. There he is in Split. We always never know whether he's going to Germany to watch a game and no idea how he's going to get back. We never know.
A couple of small. I've got 2 more very small observations.
Far away, sir.
Just one thing. So I'm watching the game, and as Rich mentioned last week, not there seems to be sort of less people coming to the games, and so that means more seats are open. And from where I'm sitting, those seats are getting pinker and pinker. They're getting paler and paler.
Yeah. And
I look at the colour, and it just reminds me of this kind of salmon colour, where once upon a time they were almost like tomato colours, right? But as they get pinker and pinker, it annoys me for some reason.
No.
It's a very strange thing to be annoyed about, but it does. The other thing as well is, as this game is changing, it's evolving, and there's different things that are happening every year in terms of the rules and every season and all these things. Like, for example, the mic up with the when there's a VAR check, and then the referee has to give a kind of a little speech about what's happening. I'm still kind of getting used to that, and it's kind of strange to hear that. However, wouldn't it be great if we could hear those comments when all players surround a referee, or basically when a referee, the mic is on of a referee, so you can actually hear what's going on, what he's saying, what people are saying to him, and sort of like that becomes completely transparent, because for years and years we have no idea what's been said. And wouldn't it be great to hear at least a little chunk of that live, especially when there's something really, really kind of, we really want to know what's been said and what's going on, right?
Yep.
So those are the last 2 things: salmon and microphones.
Well, as they always say about Watford and the fantastic fanzine of yellow, black, and salmon pink. No, that doesn't work. You're absolutely right. They should be red. However, we get them back and red, or even better, however we can get them filled. And for me, the best way to fill, there's two real good ways of getting them filled. 3 o'clock on Saturday is one, because people can, a lot of people travel a long way to get to home games, and for a lot of people it's costing an awful lot of money as well. So having a game on a Saturday, then a game on a Tuesday, it's that, or whether or not you're giving your kid a present, maybe, you can't knock those people. The other thing is just get it right on the pitch at some points, and build the team, and they will come. Who knows? Hopefully we will be there very, very shortly. Let's get across to Pete Ryan, and then we can kind of maybe start to feature of calling it a night. But Mr. Ryan, sir, what are your thoughts on tonight? Because enough of me. What are your thoughts?
Well, it was probably just as well we didn't have a mic on the ref, because when Matthew Pollock imitated Roy Keane standing over the player that was he the Icelandic player Ingerson, number 8, at the end of the first half.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure we would have wanted to hear that. And then they hugged each other as they went off. It was it was a pivotal game, wasn't it? I'm sat here on a wet bench looking at the Grand Union Canal, waiting to just listen to what people say. There's some very good points. I think that this was the game where we realised we ain't going up. Man for man, who in this squad would get into the Zola squad? Who would get into the Jukanovic squad? I think we just have to be realistic. I'd like to thank Mr. Harry Amos. I'd like to thank Sheffield Wednesday. They're a proper club.
Yes.
They are a proper football team. They even sell proper pies called Hendo pie. And
we've got to the pie level of the evening, everybody.
No, they are the best pies in the Championship. And why would you come to Vicarage Road to spend £6 on a pie and £4 on a Coke, with all of their ingredients in? We had a player called Hendo once, and I want to go to our two guys up front. It's like our young players have looked at the table. Yavi might not. I mean, he and his coaches are strong. He's from Pamplona, for Christ's sake, where they run with the bulls. And they're not Spanish, they're Basque, and they're proud of it. And I just like them to get hold of our young players and talk to them quietly, because today Mama was schooled, wasn't he? Mama could have been sent off. I know everyone hates the ref. Full disclosure, I used to work with him, and I've told him how soft he is in the first half of games and how it looks always like in the second half of the games the thing gets run away with him.
Right.
But it wasn't really Dean Whitestone's fault that 2 players run into him. And the crowd are getting on his back because we're so frustrated that we've gone 1-0 down to a team that we think are the equivalent of the Championship dog and duck. It's like our guys were going to wheel out the Joker in It's a Knockout before the game, because this was a banker, this was double points. And unfortunately, our players looked like they were dressed up as penguins, dropped all their buckets and completely cocked it up. They've got to work together. In the first half, I thought that Doumbia, Kayam Gore is pressing his guts out. Jack is trying. Ngakia is really trying, and Pollock is really trying.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of them, I didn't think, was a bit like the Norwich game, where we had 6 blokes standing around at the front, looking at the people behind, going, "Just give us the ball, please." You've got to try. You've got to press back. Hendo, as in Darius Henderson, Marlon King,
working the back line at all times.
Wouldn't stand up the front. They would, if it wasn't getting to them, they would charge back and help our 2 desperate people in midfield, which at the moment is Loser and Kayembe, or Loser and Kipriano, whoever the 2 are, the 2 patsies that are meant to defend the back 4 but can't because of the shape of the team.
Yeah,
it's not good enough for Bowler and for Mama and for Doumbia and for Kayem Gore to stand there and wait for the ball. No matter what the quality of the opposition, we've got to go to Wrexham and we've got to go to Stoke. And I know Stoke have lost 4 out of their last 6, so they're not in great form. But they're still Stoke, and they've still got something about them. And it was like a load of our players today just thought this was going to be easy. Well,
it weren't.
That's what got Mama booked. Mama, in his petulance, cleared out Harry Amos, didn't he?
Yeah.
Because he was taken aback that our ex, he wouldn't have known that he was our ex academy player. Plays for Manchester United, for Christ's sake, and has played, in the Champions League.
Yes, indeed.
And made him look stupid repeatedly. And Mama's ego couldn't take it, could he? Mama and Erica, I ain't going to call them out. I don't care that they're only 19 or 18 or whatever it was. I mean, I had a proper job when I was 19. And I played men's football, not to their level, but they're playing for themselves. If there was every opportunity when they cut into the box, they wanted to score for themselves. They may want to go to the World Cup. I'll be glad when it's not a World Cup season, because there were opportunities where they could have cut the ball back, or passed inside, but they went for glory, their own personal glory, every single time. And just before half time, when Mama charged the guy in the back to the number 7, which stopped a break for Sheffield Wednesday, who were excellent, I thought, for what they had and for the build-up that you gave in the podcast with the noble correspondent from Sheffield Wednesday.
Matt, lovely guy.
They were. Yeah. They were great. Okay, they didn't fade on 60 minutes, as you said, as we were expecting. Maybe our team listened to the podcast and thought, "Yeah, this is going to be a feast of piss."
Fuck, it's our fault again, everybody. Yeah, probably.
But someone's got to get hold of Kamegor and Doumbia. Doumbia did absolutely zippo in the first half. If Kamegor is pressing one player, you've got to work together, people, and they weren't doing it.
Yeah,
and that way. They don't build out from the back. They don't put the long balls forward, and they don't score. And likewise, our wingers, when Aaron Kunda came, have got to work together as well. Ngakia wanted someone to play in front of him, and in the second half he couldn't, because he had Aaron Kunda come on, and because Aaron Kunda got the sulks, because there was a great little cameo where they went right into the corner flag, right in front of the 1881, and Aaron Kunda fails Amos a couple of times. He's put his foot on the ball.
Yeah.
He drags it back with his heel, and then he back heels it through Aaron Kunda's legs to go, "See you later, son."
Yeah.
And the reaction to that was Aaron Kunda sulks off over to the left-hand side, because he'd mentally gone. Because he tried repeatedly to beat him or go past him, and he couldn't do it. And someone's got to speak to them during the week and go, "Look, let's go through this. You are playing for a team. I know you've all got massive personal ambitions and massive personal ego. And in respect, I know that Aaron Kunda's trouble, because essentially he's from a Central African country, Burundi, and then his family went to Tanzania.
Yeah.
And then essentially they've claimed asylum in Australia. And I'm wondering if it's the Australian, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but whereas other players like João Pedro and other players like Richarlison had their families over, and some of the African lads have brought out. Is it the case that he can't get his family out of Australia because if they come over, the Aussies won't let them back in? Is that the case? I don't know.
I don't know if it is. It might be. I mean, I think we have to go. There has been a thing with
the food in London will be alien to him. He needs to meet some people from his own kind. If he's in his own house, maybe he should be in a clubhouse, as in with a club landlady or something like that. As someone's going to.
Well, whatever the situation is, we've had a team for a number of years who you and I have discussed it, have been mentally fragile. I'm not talking about mental health. I'm talking about the in-game dealing with everything. But having a level of resilience is absolutely what he needs. And for that, for any player, especially a 19-year-old who is literally playing on the other side of the planet, you need a support network at that age to work out, Christ, let's be honest, life, let alone championship football and everything else. Interesting. Colcom, hello Cole, said, Owl here, in the nicest way, Watford shouldn't need to show fight until the end mentality against this Sheffield Wednesday team. We are absolutely abysmal. However, you got the goal in the end, so fair play. However, Colcom then turns on us. He turns on us and shots are fired. He says, I noticed those seats, by the way. He's talking about the salmon pink that Peter told us about earlier. I pointed out to my mate, I thought Hillsborough was bad. Oh, kick a man when they're down, Cole. Sir, absolutely enjoy the point, but bloody hellfire. Good, kick a man when he's down.
Well, hang on a minute. The team at the top of the Premier League, Arsenal, have a look at their stadium. All of their seats are faded salmon pink. I wouldn't mind their money, their team, and their success. I'm more worried about what's happening on the pitch. And essentially, we've got two very immature wingers who are just doing it for themselves. They've got all the skill in the world. They've got all the ability in the world. They've got all of the future in front of them. But they need to be spoken to and told to play for the team. They're letting down. Ince came on and he couldn't get going with Ngakia because the normal partnerships we have between the fullback and the winger, because they weren't playing for each other, and they all thought it was going. They playing at 40% in the first half, most of them, and you cannot do that. And they've got to learn from that. They were playing like it was a Carabao Cup against Accrington Stanley or Cambridge United, and we got our fortunes told to us. And yeah, that was my point, really.
Yeah. Fair enough, sir. Fair enough. Well, thank you as ever. Thank you very much as ever, Pete. There, not only knows what the referee was like. He was getting pelters from both ends. Sorry, we're on trying to get you back in, but we're quite late now. Thank you ever so much for all of the comments on YouTube and on Twitter. We'll quickly go through some of the 5 words, really lickety split. But I just wanted to put in some comments from Watford FC 1881. We're too soft. Bullyable from wherever whatever we come up against. No one was taking the game by the scruff of the neck and almost forcing us forwards. Yeah, it did feel like, for once that's probably felt like the thing that Loser hasn't had in these last few games, and obviously people will take a look at his agent situation and see what's happening, and who knows, it might do, but you can't be looking to move away and then you're form dipping. So it's only in his interest, if he is looking to move on in due course. And of course, he's going to want to play at the highest level if possible. He's still got, quite rightly and understandable, international ambitions. But you can only do that one way, and that is exactly what Pete was saying, by being part of a team. And let's face it, he's our lion who can lead us if possible. Let's get to 5 words. Smitty said, awful stinking pile of dung. Not much, let's be honest, not much grey area in that statement for sure. Steve Otway says, casual, careless, where's the intensity? And I think that's the question. We talk about passion, we talk about a number of things, intensity, but also that team cohesion, because exactly as Pete was saying, when one player presses, the others have got to join. Otherwise, any team worth their salt at all will play around you, and we need to act at that as a team. John Parslow said, Semedo very nearly missed that. He said, well, he did, but he didn't. I did like this this next comment, I have to say. Let me get this was Vic Bate who said, huffed, puffed, farted about, goal. And I think that's probably the summary of the first half, particularly there. Pete Ryan, we heard there, too many playing for themselves, as he said, not enough a team. Pete Fincham said there were 3 crisp packets on the pitch the whole game. They might have been pie wrappers near the GT stand. Obviously, Pete Ryan would not approve of those pies, far more in favour of the pies available at Hillsborough. They were more effective and entertaining than most of the players. They didn't move the entire game. Like K9, he says, WFC Chef says, more life in Tramp's vest. He says, Stuart Scullion says, too many underperformed. Yeah, absolutely. 3 strikers not good enough, says Nero, the Golden Boy. Here's a question. If we're going to play 2 up front, then don't we need to have 4 strikers? Because it only takes 1 to be injured, and then you're kind of down to the bare minimum. At the moment, if we're playing 2 up front and we've only got 2 in the building, maybe, who knows? If Yavi is not utilising squad players, are we going to see a busier January than we might think in terms of both outgoings and fresh incomings, even if it's just a roll of the dice. I'm not saying they're necessarily going to be better. Is that possibly something that we're going to happen, or might we see some reintegration of those players back into the team? Vinny says, Sangria man, no more 4-4-2. Simon Parkin says, don't sing the frigging penalty taker's name before the frigging kick. Brain dead. Sorry for breaking 5 words. That's all right. Simon, you never need to apologise, because let's face it, we don't enforce these laws. We're very lax, very lax. Watford now a registered charity, says Peter Joyless Jones. Harry says Yavi isn't utilising the best squad. 2 points dropped to a treat of 2 more words. Dog shit again, he says. Dan Harvey said, can't keep coming from behind. There's a bit of a fanar in that. Rusty Trombone, hello Brian, says KMB deserves a contract extension. I think there's a certain level of sarcasm in there somewhere after today. Let's try a clean sheet, says Thomas J Design. Hey Tom. Gareth says absolute dog shit performance, Kingswood Hornet. Dan Harvey, he says mine's on the FA Cup. Oh, it's not. Let's face it, who needs another away game at Bristol City? We love our Bristol City erstwhile counterparts, but do we need to go down there again for that? Should we now be, by the way, should we be doing something unnecessarily complicated like they've done with the World Cup draw, where you can't get drawn against? You know, they were doing the Confederation thing. You had to have, no more unless it was Europe, you could only have one from each confederation. Should we now be drawing the FA Cup and going, if you get somebody in your own league, then we basically put that to one side and we draw until we get teams in different divisions? Isn't that the appeal of the cup? Of course, unless you're a TV people, in which case you just play Premiership football. But might that liven it up? I don't know. Probably I'm talking bollocks. Watford Argentina says enough of the 4-4-2, please. Yavi reincarnation needs to end, says Rich. Frank said pot noodle and a fag. He was too exhausted even to indulge in his pot noodle and then preferred tissue-based activity. Badly drawn Watford says, go get the cowards flag. He said, Willie Eckerslike says, that was just so Watford. I did say to the Sheffield Wednesday, our counterparts, there's nothing more like Watford than to go and throw this game away. We didn't. We got something at the end. That is character. We can't ignore that, but nor can you ignore the first 95 minutes where we did our best to throw potentially 3 points away. And even, Coleman earlier on, Matt and Rich, all the guys up at Wednesday Till I Die, and James have all said, you should be doing this, really, basically. 8-2-4-7 becomes 7-3-2-1 next game, says Paul. I think you're talking about the numbers dwindling if the football isn't up to snuff. But as we say, 1 defeat in 8. Are we being over anxious? Who knows? Season hits a new low, says Jason Loop. John Parslow, stop going 1-0 down. I agree. Ben says Jarvisaurus and his dinosaur tactics ditch the 4-4 feckin' 2. Jarvisaurus is a cocker spaniel, and I'm not really having him, despite his excellent performance in previous prediction leagues. I'm not going to have him put in front of the team, in charge of the team. Rusty Plumbone, a great result against baffling teams. Sarcasm alert, everybody. Brian's about. We're all Hornet. Steve says, how many words is 4F? That's good. That's good. That's funnier than my delivery was of it. I do apologise. Let's see what we got. Rusty Trombone's back again. Unbeaten run continues. We're quality. He also says 0.1 against quality opposition. Brian is all for the sarcasm. I'm just accept that it's all there and it's all sarcastic. Alan WFC says weak, wishy-washy, wimpy Watford. Nice alliteration. Alan knows I'm a big fan of that. If there's one thing that'll get me through a disappointing performance, it's 5 words that all begin with the same letter for no apparent reason. Fuck off, you useless cunt, says Cobbers. Now, yeah, harsh, but possibly fair for long periods. And Gaki, a huge value at £500 a week, says Rusty Trombone, spinning out the old one. Ryan Cripps says, a shambolic performance tonight, had the chance to sneak into the top 6 and fucked it up completely. Mama really poor. Semedo rescues us a fluky point. Simply dreadful, he says. Uncle Ron comes out with fighting talk. He says Julian Clary is tougher than Kieramgard. I don't think that's the case. I think if we'd have signed the Joan Collins fan club to play in the number 9 shirt, I'm sure Ron would have objected. But would have probably signed up for the pre-match press conferences, because they would have certainly been entertaining. Steve Woolley said, it's not It's not 5 words today, but the gap between the Championship and Premier League now is light years apart. None of the 3 sides that go up will lay a finger on the 17th place team in the Premier League next year. It's all playing into the hands of the Super League rich. Can't disagree with that, Steve. Excellent stuff indeed. It's that's one for a debate, I think, over a summer where everybody can kind of not be gnashing and wailing of teeth. But I think the appeal of getting into the Premiership Premiership from a football and a football fan and experience point of view, I think it's something that the Premier League needs to be looking out for. I think it's never been more important to try and get the fresh deal for football, the redistribution, because if you just have a rotating basically 23 effectively going into the Premier League, 3 coming down and 3 going back up or what have you, that just does no good for, and I hate to sound commercial, but for the product in any way. Stuart Cashmore says, what has happened to Toby Adeyemo? Was supposed to be a young Watford FC star, not sure where he's been. He had some injuries. He has been back in the under-21s this season. I don't think, even with the players that we've got, that he is going to be busting into the team anytime soon, which is a shame. I think his momentum has stalled. Nobody would be more pleased than I to see him come back and do that kind of 72-minute goal that he scored against Blackpool that time on the Graham Taylor day. That was wonderful. Perhaps he will need a move away in order to do something, because sometimes young players at their own clubs aren't necessarily treated or considered, shall we say, in the same way as the ones who've been brought in from externally and given the opportunity. That being said, don't forget, 2 of these forwards that we've got, they're loan players. One's with Udinese and the other is signed to Udinese and will now potentially go, although I believe Kieran Gard is more Watford than Udinese in appearance. But who knows? I don't even want that last goal, says WFC Checker. I agree. Big Galoot says strikers never turn and shoot. A team of utter individuals. I totally blame Potso for this mess, says Tony May. David Sweet says abysmal. Just showed how lucky we were against Norwich. An embarrassment tonight, he says. Not pleased at all. Ian Foster says don't know what to say. Well, thank you, Ian, because that's the kind of thing that we like to know. If you don't have anything to say about the game, just make up 5 words and just go, yeah, not really sure what. That'll do. Martin Pollard says, what did I just witness? Question mark. We're not sure. Stuart Cashmore players, close control is horrendous. Snowboy, at least is there? I don't know if there is any more Romanian second division news. We got some on Saturday. Worrying performance. KMB now back in the side and the plays slow down. Loser is just treading water at the moment until January. He knows Watford will accept 8 to 10 million for him. Grazia is not learning from the previous game. Survival is the priority now, he feels. I mean, we're 3 points off of second place, but the 3 points, off of 6th place, which is the champion, which is obviously the playoffs. We are 6 points off of 3rd place. That's where we are. But of course, whenever an optimistic football supporter looks at the table, they always look upwards. You could throw a serviette, if you had such a thing as a serviette. They don't really exist anymore. Let's call it a napkin, shall we, over the Championship, and you would cover half the teams. It is so closely packed. This is why tonight was important. We need to be on the right side of that split when as the league goes on, in order to get, make sure we're in the pack for those playoffs. More dropping of points, and it becomes difficult. But 1 defeat in 8, and we keep coming back to that. It was a great shout earlier on about it. It's an excellent metric to remember. Means we are picking up something. We'll see where it takes us. Derek Armstrong, Derek, how he said, will these players ever learn? He asks. Yeah, Michael Sills, naive, inexperienced, petulant, sluggish, woeful. Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, guys, thank you ever so much for being with us and being with us this evening. It's been very long. We've gone way past midnight now, and I just wanted to say thank you once again. A huge thank you to everybody who is a Patreon and has helped us grow the podcast to do things on various platforms, which include YouTube. It includes, doing more stuff through Twitter. I appreciate, obviously, not everybody likes Twitter, which is one of the reasons we wanted to bounce into YouTube as well, and everything we do. It really is appreciated. One of the things we haven't asked for absolutely ages, but I will do if that's okay. If you listen to us on whatever you like. If you're listening to us on Spotify, if you're listening to us on Apple or what have you, if you could drop us a review, obviously 5 stars always help because it just helps the podcast grow. If you're watching us on YouTube, if you can hit the like, etc., or the subscribe or whatever those things are, they do just help, and they really, really are appreciated. Look, it was a frustrating night tonight, but as we mentioned earlier on, it was under Gianfranco Zola that 3-0 defeat to Yeovil happened. After that game, Gianfranco Zola resigned, and his letter carried more class than many managers we've had throughout their entire reigns. Just goes to show that good football isn't always what we get served, not just at Watford, but in the Championship. It is a war of attrition. It is a marathon, not a sprint. Tonight, Sheffield Wednesday nearly got what I think they frankly deserved, because of the shit that they've had to put up with. So it's nice to have empathy, but then it's also nice to be a bit selfish and go, no, we're Watford as well, and we should have been in there to have done better. Our eyes will turn to Wrexham and to the racecourse ground, and I will still call it that, despite it being called something else now in Welsh. A game and a team we haven't visited for a little while. The opposition view for that will be out tomorrow. We had a lovely chat with Nathan and spoke about that. And it's, in a way, it's a little bit of the flip side to the Sheffield Wednesday story. They've had those owners who have come in, shown incredible ambition, and it mirrors what happened at our club in the 1970s and early 80s under Elton John and Graham Taylor, where somebody comes in and shows desire, shows momentum, and somebody gets hold of the club and does the right things. It is still capable of being done. Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, now Rob Mack apparently, have done that. Again, Nathan is like so many of our opposition guys, lovely guy. And then, of course, we get into the complete utter hell that is the Prediction League. But we will see where we go. In the meantime, we will get that out. This will be out as a podcast, and if you're listening to it, then that'll be there. Plus, if you haven't heard it already, Alex Lowe, he plays Clinton Baptiste and he plays Barry from Watford. He's a friend of the podcast, lovely, lovely guy. And he is playing a show at the Coliseum with Simon Brodkin, Larry Deans, and another chap whose name momentarily escapes me, but it is about 20 past midnight, or half past midnight here. So I'm forgiving myself for that. At the Coliseum on the 20th of December. He's also got a tour going on in 2026, including playing the Palladium. And so we get a chance to have a chat with him. Lovely guy, lots of laughs in there as well. So perhaps have a listen to that. And we will see you after the Wrexham game as well, because the one disappointment does not a championship season makes. It's made up by a series of disappointments and post-match shows after, where we come together and go, was that good? Nah. What should the manager do? We don't have to say the manager should go, but if you want the manager to go and you think the manager should go, it's your right and your opinion to say it. And if you want to say it here, say it right away. Everybody else has the opportunity to come back and go, yeah, no, I disagree, or vice versa. That's all this is. It's just a debating forum. Nobody has to take it seriously, and we'll see the rest as we go. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you on Saturday. Take care, all. Have a good night. You Wans.